Right, so get this right. We're diving into Joan of Arc. You know, Joan of Arc, the French heroine, the one who led armies and all that. But, and here's the thing. This isn't your typical history lesson, you know, like dates and battles and all that. We're looking at her through the lens of, well, this is going to sound a little out there, Spiritism. Yeah, Spiritism.
It's a fascinating perspective.
Right. And your sources, especially this book by Léon Denis, The Mystery of Joan of Arc, they suggest there's a whole other dimension to her story.
Absolutely. We're going beyond the typical historical narrative, you know, the battles, the politics, to explore the possibility that Joan was, well, this might surprise some people, a powerful psychic medium guided by spirits.
Okay, hold on. So, Spiritism 101, for those who maybe need a little refresher.
Yeah.
It's the idea that spirits, like actual spirits, can communicate with us, influence our world. And Denis, this author, he believed Joan's life, her whole story, is a prime example of this.
That's exactly right. To really understand this perspective, though, we need to step back in time for a second. Back to 15th century France. Can you picture it?
Sure.
The 100 Years' War is raging. France is in chaos. Denis describes a nation gripped by despair. People are starving. There's disease. He even mentions wolves. Wolves roaming the cities, scavenging for scraps.
Whoa. Okay, that's intense. It's like a scene straight out of a dystopian novel or something.
It was a bleak time, and it was against this backdrop of utter desolation that Joan emerged, Denis argues. And this is key. Her arrival wasn't mere chance. It was a divine response to France's desperate pleas for help.
Okay, so far so good. You know, historical drama. But where does the Spiritism part come in? Was Joan just, like, super religious, or is there something more to it?
That's where her childhood gets really interesting. Even as a young girl, in Domremy, there were signs pointing towards a unique spiritual connection.
Hold on, I'm trying to picture this. You know, a peasant girl working the fields. What kind of signs are we talking about here?
Denis highlights her deep connection to nature, her fascination with church bells. He sees these, not just as simple traits, but as early indications of a heightened spiritual sensitivity.
So not just a hard worker, but a dreamer, too.
Exactly. The source mentions how Joan would often kind of lose herself in contemplation, almost as if she was already experiencing visions, even before the famous ones began.
Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. Let's talk about those visions. What happened, and how does Spiritism explain them?
Well, at 13, Joan has this life-changing experience in her garden. She sees 3 figures, St. Michael, St. Catherine, and St. Margaret. Denis interprets these figures as Joan's spirit guides, communicating with her from the beyond.
Spirit guides, so not just, you know, random saints popping in for a chat. What did they tell her?
They gave her a mission to lead the Dauphin, Charles VII, 2 rhymes for his coronation, and to save France.
Wow. Hold on. A 13-year-old peasant girl entrusted with the fate of a nation. Talk about pressure. Did she believe it? Or did she think she was, I don't know, going crazy? I mean, wouldn't you?
Joan fully embraced this mission. Her conviction, it was unshakable, fueled by her connection to these spirit guides.
All right, so she's got this divine mission, but how does a peasant girl with, like, 0 military experience convince anyone to take her seriously? That's got to be an uphill battle. I mean, you're telling me it's like walking into the Pentagon and saying, hey, I've got a message from, you know, beyond. Let's go win a war.
It really is remarkable. Joan sets out from Domremy, this tiny village, to Chinon, where the Dauphin is holding court.
Okay.
And she manages to convince, like, think about this, seasoned military leaders to take her to the king.
Wow.
Based purely on the strength of her belief.
So she had some serious charisma. But is that enough to win a war? Or did those spirit guides give her some battlefield intel, too?
Well, that's where the Siege of Orleans comes in. It was a turning point in the war. And Joan's actions there, they're fascinating, especially when you view them through the Spiritist lens.
Okay, set the scene for us. What was happening at Orleans, and what role did Joan play?
So Orleans was on the brink of falling. To the English, I mean, French morale was at an all-time low. Everyone's losing hope. Then Joan arrives, radiating confidence, and suddenly the tide turns.
Sounds like a movie montage. Did she just, like, give a rousing speech, or was there something more to it?
It goes deeper than that.
Yeah.
Denis points to several instances where Joan seems to have, I don't know how else to say it, knowledge beyond normal human understanding.
Give me an example.
She predicts her own wounding, like in detail.
Really?
And she makes tactical decisions that just defy her complete lack of military training.
So like a sixth sense? Is that where the Spiritism comes in?
Precisely. Denis believes she's receiving guidance, direct guidance, from her spirit guides. Remember? Spiritism suggests that spirits can, influence events in the physical world, provide knowledge, insights to those who are open to receiving them.
So it's like having a direct line to a team of strategists, but in the spirit realm. I wonder if she ever doubted, though, being in the midst of battle with so much at stake. That must have been terrifying.
You'd think so, right? But the source portrays her as completely unwavering in her faith, even in the face of, danger, constant danger.
Okay.
It's as if she knew, deep down, that she was guided and protected by a force greater than herself.
Speaking of protection, her luck eventually ran out.
Yeah.
She was captured. What happened there? Was that some sort of a spiritual test or something?
Her capture at Compiègne, it's a mix of political maneuvering and possible betrayal. Denis suggests that some figures in Charles VII's court felt threatened by Joan's growing influence.
Makes sense. I mean, she was basically the ultimate power behind the throne.
Right, and she wasn't afraid to speak her mind, so I bet that rubbed some folks the wrong way.
Oh, absolutely. But here's the thing. Even while imprisoned, Joan's faith doesn't waver. Not one bit. She even predicts her own capture beforehand.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So this precognition thing, seeing the future, that's another element of Spiritism, right?
Exactly. It's the ability to perceive future events through, let's say, spiritual means.
Okay.
And it fits in with Joan's story, definitely. But things take a dark turn. With the trial at Rouen, that's where her unwavering faith is truly put to the test.
Okay, so we've got a peasant girl turned war hero, guided by spirits, now facing a trial, orchestrated by her enemies. This is getting intense. What was the trial really about, and how did it play out?
Well, it was a complete mess, really.
Yeah.
A political and religious powder keg. The English, they wanted Joan dead, no question. They saw her as a symbol of French resistance, of course, and some French authorities, well, they felt threatened by her too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, think about it. She had basically gone from peasant girl to, the most powerful figure in France.
Right, talk about a meteoric rise.
Exactly. And she wasn't afraid to challenge authority. So, yeah, there were plenty of people who wanted to see her taken down. So the trial, it was essentially a sham.
Oh, absolutely. Designed to discredit her. They accused her of heresy, sorcery. They twisted her visions, her spiritual experiences into evidence of a pact with the devil.
So they were basically using the very thing that made her powerful against her. What a betrayal.
It's a classic tactic, isn't it? When you can't defeat someone's ideas, you demonize the person.
Yeah, sad but true. So how does she hold up? Under that kind of pressure, I mean.
It's incredible, actually, even under threat of torture.
Wow.
Joan refused to deny her spirit guides or her divine mission, her resilience. It's a testament to the depth of her spiritual connection, I think.
But didn't she eventually recant? That's a pretty major turning point, right?
She did, under duress.
Right.
But Denis, he offers a really thought-provoking interpretation of this. He suggests that in her final hours, Joan's spirit guides, they offered her comfort and prepared her for death. It wasn't a denial of her faith, but a spiritual evolution.
Okay, so even in the face of death, her connection to the spirit world was still a source of strength.
Exactly. Denis even quotes Joan as saying that her brothers of paradise comforted her, telling her to suffer is to grow grayer, to grow higher.
Wow.
It suggests that death, from a spiritist perspective, of course, isn't an ending, but a transition to a higher state of being.
So her execution, well, tragic, obviously, wasn't seen as a defeat in the spiritual sense.
Not at all. But Denis presents it as a martyrdom.
Okay.
Joan dies with grace, offering prayers for her enemies. Her last word, Jesus, is seen as a final affirmation of her faith and the culmination of her spiritual journey.
All right, so big picture time. How should we understand Joan of Arc's legacy, especially through this Spiritist lens? Was she just a historical figure, or is there something more we can learn from her?
Denis sees her as a powerful symbol of spiritual resilience, a testament to the idea that we can overcome adversity through faith and connection to the divine. Her story, he argues, resonates deeply with Spiritist beliefs, communication with spirits, a divinely ordained mission, the triumph of the soul over, a material suffering.
He even includes a message from Joan, channeled through a medium, right? At the end of his book.
What does that message tell us?
That's a beautiful message, really. It speaks of Joan's continued connection to the spirit world and her desire to guide those who are seeking to understand life's mysteries. It emphasizes love,
Mhm.
forgiveness, and the eternal nature of the soul.
Joan of Arc, war hero,
Hmm.
martyr, and spiritual teacher. It's definitely a different way of looking at her story. So, what do you think is the main takeaway for our listeners, who've been with us on this deep dive?
I think it challenges us to consider the possibility that there's more to reality than we typically perceive.
Yeah.
Joan's life, through a Spiritist lens, suggests that we can tap into spiritual dimension, find guidance, and even draw strength in the face of adversity.
It makes you wonder, what if we all have the potential for this kind of connection, for guidance from beyond? Maybe Joan's story is an invitation to explore those possibilities within ourselves. It's certainly food for thought, whether or not you embrace the specific tenets of Spiritism. Joan's story, through this lens, encourages us to keep an open mind, to explore the unseen forces that might be shaping our lives, and to remember that, even in the darkest of times, the human spirit, connected to something greater, can endure and even triumph.
What an incredible journey. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those minds open.